What's up, horror fans? It's Danny here from the Lasercast, and for the final time this season, I'm going to be doing my Friday morning Creepshow review. The season finale of Creepshow Season 3 on Shudder went up last night. I finished watching it, and now we're going to talk about it. Last week, I was so excited to cover Creepshow, and I incorrectly thought it was the season finale. Turns out, 6 episodes this season, and I think they ended the season in a really nice way because it comes as almost a full circle tribute to George Romero, who directed the OG Creepshow back in 1982. Specifically with the second segment, which we'll get to in a minute. This season finale was the two segments are Drug Traffic and Dead Girl Named Sue. Drug Traffic was written by Christopher Larsen and Maddie Doe, and it was directed by Greg Nicotero, the showrunner for this series, the guy who basically revitalized Creepshow and has made it such a success on Shudder. Maddie Doe is Laotian. She's the first female horror director from Laos, and this entire episode segment is about a Southeast Asian horror story. I remember a few years ago, I noticed a movie on Netflix with a really creepy poster art, and I was like, all right, let me add that to the queue. And I haven't watched it yet, but it's called Inhuman Kiss. And this segment is based on that same folk tale from Southeast Asia. That movie was a Thai film. I'm not sure of the pronunciation, and I apologize in advance, but I believe it's either the Krasu or the Kasu, depending on if you're Thai or Laotian. But effectively, it's this, you have this teenage, it looks like a teenage girl, maybe she's in her early 20s, and she looks really sick. She's complaining that her stomach hurts. Her mom is trying to give her pills. They're at like an immigration border crossing, and the border agent is super suspicious, takes the mom into custody. He is played by Michael Rooker, who is having a phenomenal time reading this dialogue and doing this acting. Michael Rooker, what a shock. Michael Rooker working with Greg Nicotero. He was such an important part of The Walking Dead's early seasons. And there's a politician there named Evan Miller, who is trying to, expose the problems that are going on with the border crossings and immigration, and he's trying to fight for people's rights. And Michael Rooker's character really just kind of calls him out on all his hypocrisy and makes him look like an idiot, and I think he does such a good job. The politician is played by Reed Scott, and he does a very good job, too. Anyway, the mom gets detained, leaving this super sick girl. I mean, the makeup they use on her face, she looks so sick. Deep bags under her eyes. Looks like her lips are like parched, and she is going to need to eat soon. To the point where she almost reaches forward and bites the person in front of her. She goes off to the bathroom, and this is the part of the poster for that movie, Inhuman Kiss, that intrigued me. Her head disconnects from her body. In Southeast Asia, this Kasu or Krasa, it is a woman whose head can detach and bring with it her internal organs. So it's a head with a spine and internal organs flying through, and it feeds. It attacks people, it eats them, it drinks blood. All this is going on. All of these crazy effects are going on while the congressman and Michael Rooker are off having, you're taking away her rights, and Michael Rooker's trying to explain that he's just doing his job, and meanwhile the mom is like, please let me get to my daughter, you don't understand. A lot of the writing kind of feels tongue-in-cheek to what's going on. It kind of feels like they have a political message, but they're doing it in like a very tongue-in-cheek way. But the effects are so cool, and what you're looking at, like, you've seen monsters, you've seen people transform into other beings that kill and eat and drink blood. You've never seen a head come off the shoulders and fly around, dragging its internal organs behind it. It's really, really cool. There's also a super fun little nod to Creepshow 2 here. Michael Rooker opens up a fridge and takes Old Chief Woodenhead beer. Of course, that was the cigar store Indian in the first episode of Creepshow 2, the first segment of Creepshow 2, Old Chief Woodenhead. So that was a nice little callback there. I really enjoyed this segment, and you could tell that Matty Doe, one of the writers, had a lot of influence into this, using that Southeast Asian lore. The second segment was a completely different animal. Dead Girl Named Sue is filmed almost entirely in black and white, and it is taking place in a small town, probably Pittsburgh, during the beginnings of a zombie apocalypse. And you basically have a police chief played by Christian Gonzalez named Chief Foster, and he goes to this like abandoned warehouse to find this guy Cliven Ridgway, who he's like the son of the local rich guy. He continually gets accused of crimes, but he gets off all the time, no consequences. But he notices in this black and white landscape a bright blue hair twisty, and his entire demeanor changes, and he grabs Cliven, played by Josh McKell, M-I-K-E-L, Michael McKell, and he brings him to jail. He cuffs him, he throws him in jail, and almost in a form of vigilante justice, he lets the town come in and watch as they bring in a girl who Cliven was accused of killing or perhaps sexually assaulting, and turns out she is a zombie. And it's this slow zombie scene where she stalks Cliven in the jail cell while he's cuffed, while the town is watching in this kind of vigilante style way. It was really cool the way that they used the black and white here. They only show little beats of color. I am not comparing this to Schindler's List, but it's similar in the way that Spielberg made Schindler's List black and white, but then he showed the one little girl running with the red raincoat, and it made everything stand out. How dark the world was there, and the color, the little bits of color, they do so much against the black and white landscape here. I really enjoyed the way they did that. This episode was directed by Creepshow vet John Harrison. It was written by Heather Ann Campbell, and it's based on a short story by Craig Engler, who works for Shudder. So that's really cool that he got a short story made into a segment of an episode here. So I really enjoyed this final episode, and sadly, perhaps, this is the end of Season 3 of Creepshow. I say perhaps because I'm hoping there's going to be a Season 4 coming next year. They seem to have a good crew of writer-directors who continually come back. We had this season, for instance, Joe Lynch came back, Axel Caroline did a segment. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where Creepshow goes from here. Shudder has a ton of cool stuff. They just started a new series, Behind the Monsters. I reviewed the first episode on this channel about Michael Myers. And speaking of Michael Myers, Pete and I have a ton of videos up on the channel about Halloween, the Halloween franchise, Halloween timelines. We have interviews, discussions, collaborations, you name it. So give the channel a subscribe if you haven't, like the video, and we will see you very soon on the Lazarcast.